This is Albany, New York, what's known as the Arbor Hill neighborhood and home of Stephen and Harriet Myers. Who were they? Stephen Myers was born as a slave in the early 1800s. He later became a steamboat steward, janitor, and free slave turned publisher. Yet, he became most known for his leading efforts in assisting slaves from the South to freedom using a network of safe homes known as the Underground Railroad Movement.
This morning I'm at 194 Livingston Avenue in the Arbor Hill section of Albany, New York. We're here to rediscover history. I'm at the residence, or I should say the former residence, of Stephen and Harriet Myers. This residence behind me is now owned and operated by the Underground Railroad Educational Center of the Capital District. They have retained Hamlin Design Group to assist them in the visioning, the planning, and design work of a brand new interpretive center. Please join us as we will chronicle the events and the development of this wonderful facility.
How did you both get involved in the rediscovery of Stephen and Harriet Myers' legacy?
The actual beginning takes us back to the late 1990s. I was looking for documented accounts of Underground Railroad activists, local people that I could take into my fifth grade classroom, which was composed of very tangible 10-year-old thinkers who were quite convinced the Underground Railroad had something to do with above-ground trains or subways.
I was writing for a community newspaper called the South End Scene, which was an inner city paper. And I'd been doing a series of articles on local Black history. And so we thought, oh, this would be a good project for us. She'd have more to take to her classroom, I had more to write about in these articles.
We were actually finding it was very difficult to find information about local activists who participated in this Underground Railroad movement. Now, both Paul and I were working full-time, 4 kids, so we went to our local Albany public librarians, and they were incredibly wonderful and helpful. So this is before computers, so they utilized their network to identify and locate these resources for us and brought them to us in the form of microfilm. And so Paul and I had numerous dates.
Using interlibrary loan.
It was like a treasure trove opening up in our presence, because it was in the midst of these preserved documents that we were meeting people who had been written out of this history, out of this story. We were meeting local people. We were reading accounts of their Underground Railroad activism that were dramatically different than what we have come to call the standard retelling. Those were the first steps that brought us to meeting Stephen and Harriet.
Usually when people tell a story, they tell a story along certain lines, and they usually follow particular figures in that. And so, you could find, say, a ton of information, say, on Frederick Douglass, or a ton of information on William Lloyd Garrison. But these Albany people, if you found anything, you found a little sprinkling here and there. One of the first things people might do is say, well, I know a house somewhere, that has an anomaly in it, and therefore that anomaly must have some connection with the Underground Railroad. And we didn't think that was the best approach in the story, that we were really looking for what are the stories of people, you know, and then we found in many cases those stories were impossible to authenticate, and so we followed these stories of Stephen Myers and Lydia and Abigail Mott and William Topp and others, Thomas Elkins, and that helped us put together a different understanding of the Underground Railroad story for Albany.
The information we were uncovering really belonged to the community that motivated us then to talk strategy. How can we share this publicly?
Right.
Which took us on a whole new path.
Please define for me in the audience, what exactly is the Underground Educational Center?
When our Black abolitionists were meeting in the front parlor of the Stephen and Harriet Myers residence, yes, their top priority was to strategize on how to abolish the institution of enslavement, both in New York State and the nation. The second item on their agendas would most likely be how to meet the needs of freedom seekers coming into town. But our Black abolitionists did not stop there. White abolitionists did. Our Black abolitionists did not. They took the next step to also strategize on how to address issues of equity in housing, healthcare, voting rights, jobs, education, issues that are very, very much present with us today and still needing attention. And so it is with that knowledge that we draw lines of connection past to present in what we do through Underground Railroad Education Center.
The focus is somewhat New York State, but we inevitably get people from all over the country.
Yeah.
What is your vision of the Interpretive Center, and how does this support the residents?
We call the Stephen and Harriet Myers Residence Campus. So it's obviously the Myers Residence building, the ground it stands on, and then the additional properties that the organization has reclaimed over time. We see it and use it as a vehicle for reclaiming the life that had been in this neighborhood in earlier times, and has through redlining, disinvestment, the legacy of the institution of enslavement, this neighborhood really has taken a very serious hit. And so we look to see what we do here as a way to say there's value here. What can we do to use what we have to contribute to the uplifting of a community?
We have several lots, maybe like 8 lots here, 7 lots. So we have the lot that Thomas Elkins lived on. We have the lot that Abram Johnson lived on. We have a couple of other lots that are connected with them. But in terms of, we've used those lots in connection with our summer program, in connection with our 4th of July program, for receptions. Neighborhood kids play on the lots. But we'd like to move beyond, that use for them, and that's where we think the Interpretive Center would go well in that space.
The Interpretive Center as well for us is a way to extend what we have been doing with the Stephen and Harriet Myers Residence building and properties in a very tangible way. And there are things that we had dreamed about doing over the years that we just don't have the space to do, or simply cannot be conducted within a historic building.
Right.
So the Interpretive Center will allow us the freedom to expand those options, that we will then be able to reach more people and share with them this incredibly empowering story. One thing that we've also talked about having the children's room, and that's, to me, is very, very exciting, because we really have a difficult time accommodating children below 4th grade level in the Stephen and Harriet Myers residence and the outside space as it's currently configured. So having a children's space means that we can be appropriate and engaging with families and their small children. Having the use of audiovisual technology, both to create, having a space where that can be created and a space where that can be shown and viewed and commented on and so on. Maintain memberships in Ancestry.com and other such research tools that would become then available for our neighbors to use.
Yeah.
So there's that sort of thing too. So the sky's the limit.
downtown Albany at our offices, Hamlin Design Group on Broadway. We're now going to review another portion of the design development, that of the concept three-dimensionally. We've already developed a program through several meetings with our client. We've also have done some diagrammatic studies of how the building is to function. So at this stage, let's see how we develop this project three-dimensionally. Come with me. This afternoon, we're in the office with one of our key designers, Timothy Garofalo. He's been with Hamlin Design Group for over 10 years, and he's been specializing in those years in the development of three-dimensional modeling. Tim, this is great. I see you have the program up on the screen. I just want to bring to your attention some of the adjustments that we made with the client in our last meeting. If you notice, the exhibit hall is slightly a little larger. We reduced some of the space in the cafe and dining area. And if you look down, even in the archive and general storage area, we made some adjustments there. If you can, please bring up the diagrams.
Sure, open that up.
Okay, so this is kind of the diagram study about how the spaces would relate to one another and how pedestrian flow would work through it. And so on the first level here, you see the archive room and the elevator and that relationship. We probably could change that relative to the library. What do you think?
I think it's good. I think it looks like a good connection.
Well, yeah, we'll take a look at that too. Again, there may be some other options. I know that you're going to go and develop the model. I'll come back and we'll take a look at that. Let me see what you've developed thus far throughout the day.
Sure, right here you can see the model from a site plan view up above. You can see the Interpretive Center, the existing residents, and some of the buildings right there in the neighborhood.
Beautiful, beautiful. So give me a tour. Take me down to street level and let's see how this looks.
Okay, I have a perfect shot for that. This one here, you're standing across the street looking down, and you can see in the background the new Interpretive Center, and also you can see the buildings on each side, and there's the existing residents.
Okay, so I'm looking southeast, see the Interpretive Center, the residents. This is a great shot to kind of see how the building would relate to others in the neighborhood.
On the other side of the street, and this one you can see up in the front here, the Interpretive Center, and you can see in the background the existing residents. And I put in some people walking around, some cars, so you can get an idea of how it's going to look when it's in use.
Okay, so you added some entourage, you get some texture and some depth to this perspective. It looks great, and it does provide a real good sense of how the building would be sited in the property. Let's fly now. Take me up to a bird's eye view and let's see what we have.
Okay, here's a good view. You can see the form of the whole building, the Interpretive Center and the adjacent support areas, and you can see how that's going to fit into the site right here.
Okay, that really looks good. I like what you did there relative to how the roof slope intersects there with the elevator shaft.
Yeah, here's a look up above, but from the other side you can get an idea of how the building's going to look over here with the roof and the structure there.
Okay.
I'll cut the building here into a section. And here you can see inside and also the structural all around the components right there.
So that is the timber structure. That is the 1850 farm building that its entire framework. That is phenomenal that you modeled that, you created that, and I can see the conference area up above, the entry level coming into the exhibit hall as well as the concession area, and the elevator shaft on the right-hand side.
Here's a section cut going the other direction of the building. Get an idea of how it looks from this view.
All right, so this is a longitudinal section, and I can see the entire length of the exhibit hall. And I believe those are offices up above that we have in place that look down and oversee the actual exhibit hall. And then to the right, we have our apartments.
Yep, that's correct.
All right, good development. Excellent job as always, Tim. Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome to Hamlin Design Group. We're right inside the lab here as we are developing this final model for the Myers residence, the Interpretive Center. And I'm here with our master model builder, Tim Garofalo, the project manager of this. I will leave him with you to walk through this incredible project he's been working on and developing over the past couple of weeks.
So for our 3D model that we've built, put together, we can start here. This is the Myers residence, the historic building that's part of the Underground Railroad Education Center. And that's located in this neighborhood. And here's the open lot where now we're proposing the new Interpretive Center. So this is the completed building and how it will look with its context in the neighborhood with some existing residences on each side. We have the floor plans of each level of the Interpretive Center so you can see what's happening inside. At the basement level, we have mechanical and support spaces. We have a library and media area, which you can see all the furniture inside and how that would be utilized. Archival storage, and a special monumental stair you can see coming down from the first floor level. On the first floor of the building, which is indicated here in the middle, we have the receiving and support area in the back. We get deliveries. We have a kitchen and cafe area here. You can see some of those components of the kitchen and the tables in the cafe. And you have the admission and event space. That's the main area of the first floor level. And you can see the barn structure too that we're incorporating in this building. And finally, on the second floor, that's where we're going to be locating apartments, offices. You can see the office furniture there, the desks, the computers. And up front there'll be a beautiful conference room looking out onto the street and looking down inside of the open event space.
Let's take it real soon. Come on, groove along. I said, baby, I know you're on a roll.
We're in Fort Plain, New York, right by the Mohawk River. And we're on the farm of the barn that we will use as the design party for our project, in which form and function will work around. I have the pleasure to be here with the farmer, Mr. Bill. Mr. Bill, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Please, what's the name of your farm and how long you've been farming this land?
High Home Farms, and it's my grandparents bought it just before the Depression. Almost lost it, and it's been in the family since then. And they actually put the floor in this barn because it was in bad shape when they got it. And the barn has been moved, actually probably 1,000 more feet from up on the hill because it was not burned during the Revolution.
Did you say the Revolution?
All right.
The American Revolution?
American Revolution, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
They speculate that it was built between 1704 and 1741.
Wow, that's incredible. We're reviewing the barn with, again, our contracting friend and partner, Tim Rao. Tim, please tell me a little bit about how you locate these barns.
Well, I'm fortunate to have grown up in the Mohawk Valley, and so just by driving the countryside and looking for these gems that stand off on the hills and along the shorelines of the rivers, you get to know them. And I'm fortunate enough to chat with Bill, and he desired to part with his barn and see it kind of turn into something new, and so we were able to make a deal over that.
You and I have met, we've talked about different specifics of the barn and how we will reconstruct it, but from this point on, the next step is for you to deconstruct this barn, correct?
Correct. We'll start with cataloging the frame, labeling every piece so we know where it goes when we put it back together. And then it'll be brought to our shop in Altamont for restoration, cleaning, fumigating, modification to the architect's desires and client's desires, and then for ready for future raising.
And we'll bring it into Albany, in Arbor Hill, reconstruct it, as well as to build around it with new structure.
Right.
Incredible process. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. And meeting you, Mr. Bill and
Mr. Clemming, yeah.
Mr. Clemming.
Bill
Thank you.
Clemming, yes.
All right.
The Stephen and Harriet Myers Underground Railroad Educational Center is located in Albany, New York. A new interpretive center has been proposed for the campus. One of its key features will be the infusion of 300-year-old barn timbers from the Hudson Valley area. Architect Sean Hamlin and barn specialist Timothy Raw discuss what goes into repurposing timbers in new construction.
Tim, thank you for having me over.
My pleasure.
This is a beautiful, beautiful space. So we are in Altamont, New York. Please talk a little bit about your company.
Sure. Well, my grandfather was a bit of an agricultural historian, barn expert, and really inspired me to get involved in the timber framing trade. Though he wasn't a timber framer himself, he just knew enough of the basics to really get me started. And 10 years on, now we're involved in dismantling 200 to 300-year-old structures and restoring them fully, cleaning them, fumigating them, and in adaptive reuse projects, giving them new life in projects such as the Underground Railroad.
You got to tell me a little bit of the backstory of these components here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 260-year-old Dutch barn frame that's in the process of being restored, much like the frame for the Underground Railroad will be restored. The process there would be to tag and dismantle and fumigate and clean and make ready for a new project. So we're giving an antique barn, a very old antique piece of our agricultural history, new life, which is very exciting.
Relative to the Underground Railroad, as well as this barn here, we will locate a barn, which I believe we have.
Yep.
And dismantle that barn.
Correct.
You will tag it.
Yep.
Store it.
Right.
Ship it, and then we will assemble it on site.
Yep.
As you take on a new project, how do you work with your clients in selecting perhaps the actual barn, the work that comes out of it?
Certain styles of antique barns come with kind of a standardized footprint, right? So just in the background knowledge of antique barns, you could say that a Dutch barn is almost always roughly square in footprint and roughly 40 by 40 on a small end. So you can kind of take those dimensions, and then maybe the client wants a loft. Well, a certain type of barn would be more accommodating towards a loft space and things like that. And the harder thing is to actually find one that's still in good enough shape and worth salvaging.
You and I will have the wonderful opportunity to take an old barn and reconstruct it right in Albany, right in downtown Albany. What is the objective that you think that project will send to the community at large?
Well, I think it'll just have an impact in terms of its ability to educate the local community and become a gathering space for the local community where they can learn the goals and values that the Underground Railroad has set forth. There's no better way to interpret the past, to connect with the past, and to do it within a piece of living history, which would be the barn frame.
Well, Tim, I look forward to moving forward on this design and construction process with you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you again for allowing us on your property and your shop.
Absolutely.